that opened the door of like, wow, you can really make money doing this. I had no idea. Like I said, it was just a hobby. And it kept growing. And then at about a year into the ATX Drinker page, I was almost making what I was making at Wells Fargo.
Hey everyone, welcome to Lone Startup. I'm Pat Kaloran, and I'm here to shine a light on Austin's most impressive entrepreneurs. From locally owned small businesses to global brands, Austin has an endless supply of inspiration. We sometimes just have to slow our scroll, take a breath, and listen. Let's dive in. All right, first off, shout out to all my fellow Austin parents who are powering through the final stretch of spring break. We're almost there. Stay strong. And if you were one of the lucky ones who managed to sneak away to the beach this week, respect. I hope you got to kick back with a margarita and soak up some well-earned relaxation. For the rest of us, don't worry, I've got you covered. Because my guest today happens to be an expert in finding the best margaritas in town. Meet Anthony Jones, the mastermind and creator behind ATX Drinker, the go-to social media account for discovering Austin's top bars, cocktails, and overall vibes. Today's episode is part of our new series, ATX Dream Jobs, where we highlight people who've turned their passions into careers. And Anthony, he's mastered the art of doing just that. Growing ATX Drinker to 160,000+ followers wasn't some fluke. In fact, he's now done it twice. First with Whiskey Boys, an equally successful account he co-founded back in New Jersey, dedicated to reviewing top whiskeys. His self-made dream job has led to some unforgettable moments, like raising a glass with Post Malone and Matthew McConaughey. And the best part? He's just getting started. His journey to becoming one of Austin's top influencers is still, well, getting lubricated. So grab a drink, settle in, and enjoy this wildly entertaining dream job story with Anthony Jones. That's what I wanted, was like to have a really cool way to like bridge that gap between the people that are doing really cool things and the people that are looking for inspiration in the city, and they can kind of meet and mingle and get to know each other. And there's been some really cool connections that have been made from that. And so that's kind of the origin of Lone Startup.
I looked a little bit at what you're doing in previous episodes, and that's what drew me in. Like, I'm really into becoming your own boss and chasing your dreams. And people don't know that because they just see my page, which is having fun in Austin and drinking. Yeah. They just think I'm just an alcoholic that's lazy or whatever, you know? Yeah. But actually, no, I got here because I was very serious about making this a full-time thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be, right? And to do it the way that you've done it, and I'm really excited to dig in here because it's not easy being a content creator in today's world. There's so much noise out there. There's so many platforms. You know, we're just commiserating over like having to upload to YouTube, how long that can take, yada, yada. Like, you know, and you started your channel back during the COVID era, right?
Yep.
Whiskey Boys?
Yep. The first one was when COVID started. We were just sitting at home, had nothing to do. And we decided to do a whiskey flight. Yeah. And same thing, let's just record on Instagram which whiskeys we liked, which ones we didn't. It was a side hobby. Yeah. And that was just a thing to do. Yeah. No intentions of that becoming full-time or anything, but. Yeah.
And so that COVID hobby, and you guys just kept going through COVID. But was there a point in when those first like 2 months where you're like, oh, wow, people are really receptive of this? Like, how did you kind of know maybe there was something interesting there? Or did you not even care, where you're like, this is just something we are doing to document our own whiskeys and we don't care if this like gets big or not?
Yeah, actually, I will say it was more of a hobby than it was to become something big like this, like a full-time job.
Right.
And we were just recording the ones we liked, we didn't. And I remember the first time I go, whoa, there's something more here, was a brand, Rabbit Hole Whiskey, actually DM'd us and said, can we send you a bottle? And for $30-$40 for a whiskey bottle, that was huge to us.
Hell yeah.
You know, we're going out, we're spending $100 at the liquor store.
For free?
So that was like, oh, okay, so we maybe should just keep putting more effort into this. Yeah. Because there's something. We don't know what is going to come from this, but there's something there. Even if we keep getting free bottles every other week or every month, that's enough for us. We were happy with that.
Yeah. And at the time, did you work at a bank? Is that right?
Yeah, I used to work for a bank called Santander Bank. It's mostly in Spain.
Okay.
When I moved to Austin, Texas, I transferred over to Wells Fargo. because Santander is not in Texas.
Yes.
So I worked for Wells Fargo.
Now that you're pronouncing that, I was working on a deal back in the tech days, and I was calling them Santander the whole time.
Yep. People would call every day, be like, "Hello." You wouldn't correct that.
That's why I lost that deal. Santander.
Santander.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I was really butchering that. Interesting. Okay, cool. And so were you pretty miserable, or was it just like was it a fine job and you were like, okay to, this creative project was just kind of a way to, express and have a creative outlet?
Just to give a little longer answer, not a longer answer in general, but before I was in banking, I was always passionate about being my own boss.
Mm-hmm.
So there was always that underlying thing of me being like, I got to do something more.
Yeah.
But after trying different jobs, actually, funny enough, I was a personal trainer from 20 to 23, but that was more of me just like trying to get into it.
Yeah.
I was doing some social media stuff. Maybe I can make this full time, be my own boss.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really work out. It was okay, but that was when like Planet Fitness opened and you could get memberships for $20 and personal training was cheap. So yeah. So there wasn't a lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
I remember even starting a movie review page on Instagram back in the day.
Yeah.
Same thing. I couldn't figure it out. I was very passionate about it and I think I had a lot of knowledge for it.
Yeah.
But same thing, it just fell off over time.
Right.
I worked in some sales jobs and eventually I kind of just accepted the fact that I got to get myself a 9-to-5. I got to pay my bills. I got to build up a retirement.
Yep.
I got to make, a living for myself. So I applied for Santander, started as a low-level banker.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like my dream job, but to talk to people every day, I'm a very extroverted person.
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely grateful to have a well-paying job and to be able to just constantly have this engagement with people every day. So it filled my needs for a job. Like it wasn't something I actually hated doing, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. So I always thought, am I going to have to do this for the rest of my life? Am I going to be a 60-year-old person just wearing a suit every day, driving to work? Just here we go again. Let's do the same thing again.
That's where my mind was at, right? It's like when you start to look into the future, you're like, I really don't want to wake up at 50 and be like hating my life, And it's like, if I got to make that change now, and what does that look like?
Yep.
And you got to just start experimenting, throwing shit at the wall. And I love kind of hearing you having, maybe try different versions of what you're doing now with the movie, reviews, and because that's great to hear. Because I think you got to take little stabs here and there, and not be afraid for that to just completely be a flop. And there's like zero downside, right? There's no huge like risk, right? Like, it's free.
It's free.
It's a free risk to take.
We're going to probably dive into this later, but it should be a hobby you're passionate about. Like at the time, I was going to the movies every week.
Yeah.
I would watch other YouTube channels about movies.
Mm-hmm.
And, with the bank thing, I kind of did give up on the hope of social media being a big thing for me.
Yeah.
But then comes the Whiskey Boys, same thing. Because I gave up hope of it being a full-time thing, I allowed it to just be a fun hobby.
Yep.
And I think that maybe was part of the reason it was able to blossom more.
Yeah.
Because I took away that pressure of this needs to do well.
Totally.
Right? So that's definitely
I think that's such a great lesson for people, like even for myself, right? Where it's like, you don't want to force that opportunity, right? You got to let that unfold a little naturally and organically for it to even be something real. Like if you're just forcing it to be something that's going to make money, you're going to probably make the wrong calls on how you go about the business, right? And you got to do, at the core, what are you trying to create? And is that fun to you? Is that interesting? Do other people can see that, right? When you're forcing something to be a business model too early on, like people can sniff that out and it's not super organic.
I agree. So it has to be like, that's like tip one for anybody out there trying to get into social media, do something you love.
Yeah.
Because even if it doesn't work out, you're still happy to do it.
Yeah.
And also you got to be able to do this for a long time to be successful. So, it might take 2 years before you blow up. Are you willing to do it for 2 years?
Yeah, exactly. So what did those early days look like? You guys would go on the weekends, get a couple of bottles of whiskey, come back, do a cool little tasting, and do some posts. Like, you weren't, I guess it was during COVID, so you weren't going to bars. It was all kind of at home whiskey tasting, and Whiskey Boys really started to gain some momentum from there.
Yeah, I think we kind of grew up to like 10,000 followers at the time. And this was when...
That's great. I mean, how quickly did you get to 10,000?
Yeah, I think it was like in 3 to 5 months or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty fast. And same with the ATX. We'll get into that, but that grew very, very fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was when feed posts were a thing. Like videos, you didn't do them back then. Reels weren't around at the time. So it was really easy just to take a picture of the bottle. And then the captions say, today we're trying this $50 Old Forester whiskey.
Yeah.
It's a great bottle to get from the liquor store. You're going to find tasting notes of caramel and all this stuff. And people, you were using that as recommendations to go to the store. So I guess we're bringing value.
Yeah.
It was fun because also during COVID, other people probably wanted to go try new things. And we were, out there with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was going back all the way to your first post this morning. I was checking out the early days post of Whiskey Boys. And I noticed it was a bunch of photos and it was, but on the reels, and I was like, oh, it's so funny how quickly the social media landscape changes, where now it's a totally different type of content you're doing. But back then, that was kind of working, and that was how you guys were being seen in the world, was through these photo reviews, right, of whiskey.
Yeah, and I remember when Reels first came out, I didn't do them. I was like, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
How do I edit this? One, we're not good on camera. We just assumed.
Yep.
But the landscape kept changing to the point where it was like, if you want to grow now, you have to do it.
Yeah.
So I just dove in and then eventually figured it out. And now it's funny, like being really good at them.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, I'm not going to do this.
Yep. So then what did the first couple years, so when did ATX get into the picture, ATX Drinker come into the picture? I know the Whiskey Boys is still very much alive, that brand. So how did that kind of evolve into ATX Drinker?
Yeah, so I moved to Austin during COVID too. I think 2021. We were under a year into the Whiskey Boys because I was already planning to move to Austin. I've always wanted to. I've visited in the past. I love live music. I came here for the right reasons. I know a lot of people move here for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I came here because I genuinely felt my personality fit Austin, Texas.
Nice.
So it was tough because we were getting this momentum with the Whiskey Boys, but I was already planning to leave.
Yeah.
So I came here, but we kept up with it. He would take pictures in New Jersey with the whiskeys he got. I would still do it here. We would go hunting in the bourbon world. That's where you like go to a bunch of liquor stores and see what you can find.
Yeah.
It was fun comparing what I could find in Austin versus what he found in New Jersey.
Price steals, you're getting different deals.
Yeah. So there was like this cool, now we're in two different cities.
Yeah.
And then, it was July and I'm on the patio at a bar and I'm drinking warm whiskey neat. And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I also love cocktails. I love going to a bar and getting a frozen.
Yeah.
I love the nightlife. I love going somewhere that has live music. So I'm like, wow, I'm doing what I love with the Whiskey Boys, but I'm also leaving this whole untapped world. And just like finding whiskey, I like finding new bars. I'm very passionate about bars. Whenever I go on vacation, I'm like, can we go check out the local dive bar? Can we go to a new speakeasy?
Same.
So So I did that here where, being new to Austin, there were so many bars. I couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah.
So just like the whiskey, how do I remember them? Okay, if I do myself or I do a picture on my page, I'll know that was one I liked. Let's go back there one day. So same way with the Whiskey Boys. Let's just start a second page, thought nothing of it, genuinely. I wasn't like, I want to become a creator or an influencer.
Yeah.
Let's just use it as a resource for me to remember where I've been, to take some pictures of some cool cocktails that I've tried.
Yep.
And do that as a fun little side hobby because at the time I was 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
So you're still at the bank, right?
Oh,
yeah.
I was at the bank with the ATX for like a full year. Just doing that when I would go out on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, and I would just be like, got this old fashioned here. Let me take a picture of it.
And did you know anyone when you moved here, or did you kind of come in and like start just going to bars, meeting people, or how did you?
I'm here with my girlfriend. Okay, so that definitely helped.
Yeah,
and she's a super extrovert.
Yeah,
like I can be somewhere shooting content, and
so you guys can go to a bar and have no problem meeting a lot of people.
No problem. And we got very lucky because our neighbors at our apartment became like ultra best friends, and there's like a group of 10 of us.
Nice.
So it worked out for us. I hear stories of people moving to new cities, and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But we got very lucky.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, very cool. I love that story. And then it took, you said, about a year before you basically went full-time ATX Drinker. When did you start to feel like, okay, I'm getting enough interest, or I don't know if you were getting, paid things at the time during that year where you're like, maybe I can, if I play my cards right, maybe I can make this a full-time thing. Like, did you get those seedlings during that first year? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny at first, I think the Whiskey Boys ended up making it to about 20,000 followers. And that was huge. I remember at the time, I couldn't believe it. I felt like a big influencer for that page.
Yeah.
And the ATX, I thought it was just going to be a side thing. I truly never thought it would ever go past the Whiskey Boys. And I did at first, I think I was at like 3,000 followers in like a couple months with the ATX Drinker.
Yeah.
And I got this idea. I said, people are passionate about bars in Austin. Let's do a tournament of the best bar in Austin, Texas. And it blew up. In like the first couple weeks, I went from 3,000 followers to over 10,000 followers.
Wow.
Because everybody was coming to the page saying, oh, my bar better win. I'm going to vote for them.
Sharing that to get people to vote for it. And man, what a good virality to that tournament. Yeah.
And I loved it because it was a community thing. Like everybody came together. They were sharing it with their friends. They were DMing me asking like, did we win that last round? Don't worry, it's going to come out tomorrow. You'll know. So there was like a lot of that to it, where that's what I still try to bring to today, is that I want this to be a community. Like all these people have a passion for bars.
Yep.
We love sitting on the patio and having great conversations. I still try to keep that within my page.
Totally.
So that was the first thing. And one of my things with being successful with social media is doubling down. If something works, don't wait 2 months. Don't try something else. Do that thing again. So like right after I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe this. Let's try the best margarita in Austin. So we did a tournament of all the best margarita spots. So then I grew to like 20,000 followers.
Jeez. Do you remember what took the cake on that one? Margarita.
It was funny because it was Matt's El Rancho.
Oh yeah.
And what's funny, I've noticed I have so many followers now that you have to realize it's not like the diehards that live downtown. We have people that maybe live in Round Rock and they only know a couple of the spots.
Sure.
So the numbers win with those tournaments.
Yeah.
That's why like even Chewy's always does well.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows Chewy's.
The big names.
But they don't know that small local bar down the street that actually has a great margarita.
Right.
So that's the only downfall with them. It's still good because it'll give you an idea. When you look back at the tournament, you can go, oh, let's try the top 5 places that are on there.
Yeah.
So I use them. I mean, I remember going out with my girlfriend a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh, sorry, where do we go? Yeah. Oh, let me pull up one of the previous tournaments.
Dude, I was just doing that recently. Not that I get when my wife and I get out for date nights, which is rare these days. We always do like to go to like a dive bar either before or after dinner.
The best.
And now I'm pulling up your tournament stuff.
I love that.
It's super helpful. It's funny. So I interviewed Bridget Dunlap, the woman that started Russell Pearl and all those bars.
Yeah.
And I see she's promoting that tournament bracket all over social media. She's all over it. So I'm sure you get the whole bar scene and industry following you, and that's incredible.
Yeah. I love the bar industry, man. I'm friends with tons of bartenders out there.
Did you ever work in the bar industry?
No, but I was a server from like 18 to 21. I served at a couple different restaurants. Yeah.
Nice. Gotcha. Very cool. So when you talking about that moment though, when you did go full-time ATX Drinker, like what was in your head? Obviously there's like hey, can I make this work financially? What would this look like? Like, can you talk to me a little bit? You don't have to get into the financials obviously, but like just where your head was at, and that was it a pretty scary decision, like putting in that notice? Like, can you kind of talk us through that period?
Yeah, actually, if it's okay, I'll jump back a little bit because so the tournaments were the thing, and then the next thing was doing top 5s, which was here's 5 best speakeasies in Austin.
Okay.
So that was almost like a list too, just like the tournament.
Yeah.
Anyway, doing those top 5s, I did a bunch of them. Best margaritas, best dive bars, best whatever. That shot me up to like 50, 60,000 followers. So really, that was all within 6 to 8 months.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Man.
And during that time, I would get, first a DM from a bar. Hey, would you love to come show off our bar? We'll take care of the drinks. And back with the Whiskey Boys with the free bottle, I felt the same way. I cannot believe this. We like going out already, and we're going to get free cocktails.
Yeah.
And then, as the page grew from 20,000 to 30,000 to 40,000, I would get a DM that was like, hey, what's your rate to promote this event? Or what's your rate to promote our bar? Which, to be honest, really, there's not a lot of money in bars. There's a lot more money in liquor brands, events, and things like that. But anyway, that's where that transition came in, where I could start making money.
Yeah.
And I had no knowledge on it because I was new to the money-making part of it.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, $300 maybe?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that works. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to make sure.
You're higher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like the first start.
Yeah.
And then I started consulting with other friends like Rachel Lately, who's on the Austin pod.
Yep.
She's been doing it for like 10 years.
Yeah. She seems like such a pro.
Such a pro. And she's so welcoming. She'll help out other creators. And we were actually friends. We like bumped into each other at DJ shows and South by Southwest and just hung out with each other.
Yeah.
So it was all natural. And then she was like, you're charging $300 for 60,000 followers? You're not even charging like half of what you should be. Like, it was thousands. She was like, for this one specific event, she was like, it should be $2,000 just to like throw something out there. And my mind was blown. Yeah. So that opened the door of like, wow, you can really make money doing this. I had no idea. Like I said, it was just a hobby. And it kept growing. And then at about a year into the ATX Drinker page, I was almost making what I was making at Wells Fargo.
Crazy. Wow. Yep. That's wild.
So then that's where the idea popped in my head.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can cover my salary. I can pay my bills. I might be able to step away from this.
Yeah. And so when you did, like, was that those first few weeks after you did end up leaving Wells Fargo, was that a scary time? Or were you like already kind of doing so well, you knew like, I'm good for at least, like if I can keep this momentum, I should be fine here, like for the next 6 months to a year?
It was terrifying.
Okay.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I mean, because you have to look at it from my full story, which was I didn't start at Wells or Santander until 24.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I was just a kid that's like running around from job to job trying to figure out what to do. And I finally got a career. I moved up. I got like 4 promotions at the bank. You know, I moved up from a regular banker to an investment banker, making 6 figures. So it was crazy for me to say to my parents, I did it. Are you proud of your son? I have a career. I'm going to be able to get a retirement one day. I can buy a house, all this stuff.
Yep.
Now I'm going to step away to be a social media influencer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just going to let it all go. So that part was very terrifying. What I had to keep telling myself was, especially in banking, it is kind of like a revolving door. Where there's always going to be jobs open. You know, there's bank branches everywhere. There's other corporate jobs you can take.
Yeah.
I just had to tell myself that you can always go back. You have this skill and they're always going to be looking for somebody. So, you know, don't worry about it. If you have to, you can step back into that game.
Yeah. I think that's so crucial. And I think a lot of the people I talk to have had that same mental gymnastics of like, okay, what is the worst case scenario? Like that door is not shut that I'm leaving. If I had to go back and provide for my family or do whatever I need to do, like I could do that, right? And I think that's an important reminder for people to take away is like really picture the worst case scenario, and it's not usually as bad as you think it's going to be, right? And I think that's really all people need to like sometimes take that risk. Is really seeing that through, talking that through with people around you, your support system, like just bouncing that off them, right? And then making sure that I think you have people around you that encourage you to take that leap, right?
Absolutely.
You kind of need people in your corner there for those moments, right?
Yeah, luckily, my girlfriend, she's very supportive and she's, whatever you want to do, I'm up for it. And actually, I wouldn't be able to do it without her because I go to all these bars. Imagine me just being like a guy in the corner with his phone out. So
yeah, true.
She allows that social aspect.
She's a big part of that.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And your family, do they understand now, I guess, what you do?
It's kind of funny to see the 180 because at first they did not get it at all.
Yeah.
And then now they, they're in Jersey, so they think I'm like this local celebrity because all they see is a picture of me with Matthew McConaughey.
Right?
So like, oh my God.
Post Malone, I saw you. Jeez, yeah. What was that for? What event was that?
That was for the release of, what's that one movie with Patrick Swayze? They made a remake.
Oh, Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Yes.
South by Southwest. So fingers crossed this South by brings a lot of new memories.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, do you want to come to the premiere of Roadhouse? And I thought it was just going to be like a screening. I had no idea that it was actually going to be the main premiere. That Post Malone, who was the other? Conor McGregor was in it, a couple other big actors, and they all were there for the red carpet premiere of that movie.
Whoa, I didn't realize that, yeah.
So I go in, I was there early, and I sit down in my chair, and they're like, look who's here. And I turn, and it's Conor McGregor walking down the aisle and sitting
Jeez.
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal, right?
Jake Gyllenhaal was the main actor in it. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. So that blew my mind just being there.
Yeah.
That was the first thing.
Yeah.
And, it's South by. So there's all these activations, all these pop-ups. And they said, come after, we're going to have an activation for the movie. Yeah. And it's going to be in East Austin. And once again, I thought it was going to be one of those things where people line up outside. You come in, they give you free drinks. There's going to be a picture that, like a wall that says Roadhouse so everybody can stand in front of it, goes on social media.
Yeah.
No. It was just for the people at the premiere. I walk in, Jake Gyllenhaal standing in the middle of the floor having drinks with people.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Post Malone was there. He was sitting with a chair. He had a cooler with Bud Lights in it. They were making like good cocktails.
Yeah.
He just wanted his cooler with the Bud Lights, smoking a cigarette, which I'm pretty sure you weren't allowed to do in there.
Yeah.
But nobody was going to tell him otherwise.
Yeah, I think he can get away with it. Yeah.
And just same thing, laughing, talking with the people there.
Yeah.
And I was able to just walk over, have a little conversation with them. And it's funny because if you asked me, like in the 2 years ago, if you could meet any 2 celebrities, It would be Post Malone and Matthew McConaughey. Oh, I'm not even kidding. I'm not exaggerating. That would be the two I would have named off my head.
Man.
So the universe is real. There's something that brought that into my life.
Check that off the box pretty quick. I was going to ask you, like, who do you want to sit down and have a cocktail with here in Austin? Like, is there anyone, obviously, who's number 3 on the list?
You know, it's funny because there's like a part of it where we're drinking, right? You're saying, who would you want to sit down and have a drink? It's different if we're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Have a drink, like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm a big movie guy, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
So I know he likes to party and have fun.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's like my favorite actor, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Or a Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Ooh.
Imagine getting drunk with him and he's just talking about the universe.
That'd be amazing.
And I love watching his videos on YouTube. So
yes, that'd be incredible. I love that. Any big South by plans this year for you, or are you mapping that out right now?
Mapping it out. I'm a big live music guy, like I said, so I'm going to be going to all the concerts. I know they have one at the Moody Amphitheater.
Yep.
But surprisingly, a lot of stuff pops up 2 to 3 weeks before the actual South by.
Yeah.
So once that starts getting closer, I'm going to be getting a lot of emails.
Yeah. Cool. One thing I wanted to ask you, so I obviously don't have your job exactly, which is definitely my dream job. But back in the day when I did work for the brewery, I did go to a lot of events, a lot of parties, and it's pretty taxing, right, on your body. At least it was for me. But I was also like 25 and going pretty hard. And it was like 3 or 4 nights a week. I'd imagine, even though people look at your job and think, oh my God, he has the greatest job in the world. He just gets to drink and have cocktails for a living. Obviously, there's parts of it that are demanding physically, and also like just the work itself behind the scenes is a lot. What is the side of ATX Drinker that people don't see that does make it a real job where you have to like do things people aren't seeing from the finished product?
Yeah, I mean, a big part is the fact that now it is kind of a job. So there's a lot of times where it takes away the joy of it. Mm-hmm. I can't just let loose. If I am there to film, I have to focus on it. So somebody might be talking to me. I'm looking around the room trying to look at angles to shoot.
Yep.
Drinking makes it easier.
Yeah.
I do want to cut back, and I do cut back as much as I can. Like, during January, there's a lot of opportunities where okay, great, I can do 5 days this week.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, Sunday, I still drank a lot.
Yep.
But I also stockpile a lot of content. So there might be a Saturday that I'm available to shoot. So then I'll try to do 5 bars that day.
Yeah.
And then I'm drinking 2 to 3 cocktails at every one of those bars.
Yep.
So I am very concerned about health long term. So I try my best to take those breaks. I try to eat healthy. I think big goal for this year is to definitely try to maybe dive into the mocktails, maybe to just shoot without actually drinking. But yeah, that's a big thing. It's like, it's all fun, for sure. I get to do what I do for a living. But man, I mean, the health thing, how do I do this till I'm 50?
Yeah, it's funny because I interviewed Jane Coe, right, at Taste of Cocoa. Yep. She was in season 1, and I asked her a similar question. She was like, I literally went to the doctor and he's like, you got to stop eating out every meal. Like your I don't know, sodium levels or whatever. It was like, yeah, your body needs a little break here and there from like eating rich foods every single night. And she was like, yeah, so I had to like cut back a little bit. And then she was saying how for so long she never really was able to go out and eat without feeling like she was working. And she's just now starting to do it where she's not doing any work. She's just going to enjoy it. She's like, oh my God, I realize I actually like going out to eat now. Like it's been such a job for so many years. Wow. She's been doing it 10 plus years, but it sounds like maybe you're navigating similar experiences, right?
Yep.
Being kind of a similar industry of...
Because I've only been full-time for 2 years now, so it's still very new to me.
Fast forward 10 years, right? What does that look like?
Yep, and I think I see myself being in that place where I will know how to cut back on the drinking. I will know how to treat it. It's funny, sometimes I stress it so much because I feel like I'm a perfectionist. I want to put out the best videos and content possible. Mm-hmm. But then I go out with my friends and I just shoot something without any focus and I just wing it. And then it turns out great.
Yeah, it's better.
Sometimes you just have to just be like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. No, I love that. What about, are there parts of being a content creator that you didn't realize would be, like when you decide to go full-time into ATX Drinker, are there any parts of the business, running your own small business really, that have been more challenging than others? Like, is it like, figuring out how to negotiate with potential brands? Is it managing the cash flow now of these different deals? Like, has there been any more challenging parts of running really your own small business?
I'm surprisingly a very hard worker, but not very disciplined. So what that means is like, I will put in the hours. But I struggle to keep myself on a schedule. I struggle to make sure I save enough for taxes. Like simple things like that where, you know, when I worked at the job, I had that 9 to 5. I had to be there. We had our schedule I had to follow. It was very easy. The taxes came out of my paycheck. Like little things like that. Now I have to have a calendar that says from 9 to 10:30, we're going to answer emails. From 10:30 to 12, we're going to edit some videos. You know, like things like that I have to implement. And I remember that being very challenging at first was I would still say, okay, I was out till 10 last night. Well, I'm my own boss. I'm going to sleep in a little bit tomorrow. You know, because I can. But then I catch myself being stuck up till midnight having to work on stuff. So getting better with my schedule has definitely been a challenge from somebody who's come from that 9 to 5 world.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, it has been being able to have that agency over how you spend that time, right? Like even myself, like I don't have the Sunday scaries like I used to, right? Because it's just a little bit easier to know on Monday it's my Monday. I'm not working for someone else's dream. I'm kind of building my own thing. So yeah, if I have to have the midnight night and burn the midnight oil, I'm okay doing it. Because I know I can kind of manage my time when I want. If I need to pick up my kids and spend more time with them on a Wednesday, you know, I can do it. So that has been nice to be able to manage your own time. Definitely goes in the pro column of doing your own thing.
I agree. And it is true, right? Doing what you love, it doesn't feel like a job. And I agree with that. You know, there is some days I wake up and I don't think about nothing else. I'm just technically working all day. And I didn't feel like work. I'm happy.
Yeah, it's incredible. Have you thought about like, oh, wow, this has now unlocked this opportunity for me where maybe it's bigger than this and there's some more other milestones or things you want to now check off the box that now that you've had success with ATX Drinker, it's created this opportunity for you?
Absolutely. And, you know, it goes back to like quitting the job. I was saying I can always go back to that job. And now I'm at the point where I don't think I ever have to go back to that job. Because I wasn't passionate about it. So now what I've come to find out is that there's going to be potential becoming a consultant. I might be able to just either work for a small bar, help them with their social media, or maybe a chain of bars, somebody that owns like 5 of them and actually help them on the backside. It could be helping them create different events. Because that's a big concern. Like I said, I don't want to be drinking until I'm 60. Also, it might be awkward to have a 60-year-old guy at like Lucky Duck down the street, which is like a bunch of college students. So that I might be able to transfer into that later in my career. So I still have these skills and knowledge, this skill and knowledge to do that. So that's one thing. And then I have like some goals that I would like to reach, you know, like maybe turn it into a TV show where I travel the US and I show off the best dive bars.
That'd
maybe
be really
Netflix
cool.
picks that up. I'm diving into YouTube now, doing some vlogging and the podcasting. So I'm going to toy around with that to see if maybe I can even turn that. You see people nowadays create like full shows on YouTube that people watch. So that could be something, you know, I'm a big believer in diversifying if you want to be successful. Because you never know what's going to happen with apps in the future. So I post everything to TikTok. I'm now posting everything to YouTube Shorts. And then I'm now doing the podcast and the vlogs on YouTube as well. So I have 3 different platforms and I want to grow them all. So I'm going to let that turn into something on its own as well. So yeah, in the beginning it was, wow, I'm getting paid off of Instagram. This is great. But now these other doors are definitely opening.
That's interesting. The Anthony Bourdain of dive bars could be pretty cool.
I thought about that. I don't want to say his name because he's a legend.
I know he's a legend. I love his shows. I go back to them religiously and watch those. But that would be such a cool way to show off the dive bars and have a little more deeper look at some of those cool spots.
Oh, that would be a dream.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So how about the podcast? How is that going? What are some things you're enjoying about doing podcasting that maybe you didn't anticipate, and what's something that maybe has been a little more challenging with going into the podcasting space?
Yeah, the coolest part is to get to work with another big creator. So we get to collab on something. We get to learn from each other. I love the idea of the long form content now because it is so stressful to just tighten something when you have so much to say about somewhere. So it's allowing us to really dive deep. And another thing, you know, the ATX Drink, I was surprised there wasn't another drink page. I cannot believe there's not a main Austin, Texas podcast out there. And I probably would have said no if there was one. But the fact that there's not a Austin, Texas
just
podcast.
for Austin lifestyle and culture and
nothing. So me and her came together and we said, let's do this then. Let's be that source. You know, we are a little more laid back with it. We're not like diving deep into the history of stuff, but we're talking about big events that are coming up. We're talking about the latest news that is happening. So I really love that. You know, we get to stay up to date with everything that's going on in Austin and be that source. And I can see it becoming like a big thing for people, you know, when they move to the city hey, you got to listen to that podcast because that's going to let you know everything that's going on. Or we're driving to work every morning in Austin, Texas. Let's listen to the Austin pod.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun, and it's a passion project right now for me.
Yeah. It's fun to flex your muscles with like talking about new topics too.
Yeah.
Is that like, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it goes back to just the passion of, I love being at a bar and just on the patio with friends talking.
Yeah.
So now we're just doing that on the camera.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that you hate the question of what's your favorite bar, so I'm not going to ask you what's your favorite bar, but let me try to paint a little bit of a more specific picture and see if you can find a bar that fits. What's a good rainy day, 50-degree, gloomy weather bar where you need to be indoors, kind of dive bar atmosphere? Okay. Does that help you narrow down a good spot where you'd go for a beer and a shot? And you can't say your favorite bar, which I know is Nickel City, right?
Yep.
Is there any other bar that's a good kind of rainy day dive place around here? Recently,
I've been loving Mama Dearest.
Okay. I don't know if I know that. Where's that?
So it's a little further east from here.
Okay.
It's right off of East 6, but it's like away from all the partying and stuff.
Yeah.
It gives this old school like horror movie vibe. They have like pigskin that's like the lampshades and stuff like that.
Yeah, nice.
But it's a laid back like dive bar feel as well. Know the bartenders every time I go in there. They're like, "Hey, you're back," and they do shots like you said, like you can do a cheap beer in a shot, but they also have crazy cocktails.
Nice.
So I love bringing friends there because there's going to be a little bit for everybody.
Yeah.
But it feels like a neighborhood bar, like where it's located, how it's laid back when you're in there.
That's awesome.
I just love it. And when I think rainy days, like that's where I want to go.
Yeah. What's it called again?
Mama Dearest.
Mama Dearest.
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, just big fan of that place. Everybody I've sent there is like happy with the recommendation.
Yeah.
You have to check it out.
Yeah, next time, that's definitely going to be our next dive bar, my wife and I, when we go out.
Yeah.
Are there any good restaurants around nearby, or do they have food there? Or
I mean, it's almost walkable from here.
Okay,
so you are still going to be near all this stuff.
5th, yeah.
Do you know where La Holly is?
I don't think so.
That's another great neighborhood bar that I recommend.
Yeah.
They make great margaritas.
Okay. Cool.
That's actually, I almost want to put them as my number one margarita spot in Austin.
Nice.
But it's a small bar, so that's back to the competition.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about it when I talk to, like you said. So
yeah. I'm also out of the scene. Like my knowledge is like so 2013 to 2018 of the bar scene here in Austin.
Yeah.
You're probably so much more evolved since you've been here since 2018 and know all the old ones and all the new ones that are up and coming. What is your view? Like, do you think Austin, like, have you traveled to a lot of cities where you've seen the bar scene? Like, how does Austin compare to, obviously you lived in Jersey, but you've probably been to New York City. How does Austin compare bar scene to a lot of other cities you've been to?
Well, it's definitely more diverse than people give it credit for because you do have so many quality dive bars, quality cocktail bars, live music bars. Like, it's crazy that you can have whatever you want here.
Yeah.
New York, they do have a little bit of everything, but there's just so many of like the high-end bars, it like leans more towards that or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I know that it's faded a little bit away from this of being like the live music capital of the world, but it still is like that, It's amazing that there's so many bands popping up at different bars. I think that's what makes it special.
Do you like to catch live music when you go out?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons I moved here is that's what, like, my hobby, we'll go out, we'll shoot a bar or two.
Nice.
And I'm like looking for a different band that's playing, or I even love DJ music, EDM.
Nice.
I like everything.
Yeah.
So that's big for me. And I think you're not going to find as much live music unless you're looking for a specific event in these other cities that you can find here. You can just pop into a bar and somebody's playing a guitar,
Yeah, no, totally. I interviewed the guy that started Far Out. Have you been there for?
Yeah.
That's actually a good outdoor venue.
I think it was his wife. I know his wife because they just did Stargazer in East Austin. It's like
workspace
in the day.
Talking about that. Yeah. Very cool. I haven't been there yet.
I love it. They did it right.
Nice.
Really aesthetic too. They have like plants everywhere.
Yeah.
It's family friendly during the day, but then at night they serve cocktails and I think pizza, and then they're doing live music and events as well.
Oh, cool. Nice. I'll have to check that place out. Well, cool. So what's your advice for somebody who in Austin, maybe they're like, they have a niche, maybe it's, I don't know, gardening or whatever their hobby and passion is, and they want to start a channel around it. If you were to be a social media consultant and give some advice to people, like what are some good little pointers that you've accrued over the past 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I find pages on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I my first thought is, wow, this is really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have an eye for this content. And I then look back at the page and I realize, oh man, they stopped posting 5 months ago. And I think people are too impatient.
Yeah.
And that's why it goes back to me saying that, are you willing to do this for 2 years?
Yeah.
Because you need to have that mindset that like, I expect nothing to come of this until 2 years is up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't grow at all by then maybe you need to just change the way you're doing it or find a different hobby.
Right.
But most people want to do it in like 3 months and blow up and have 100,000 followers. And that's so unrealistic. Do what you love. Stay consistent. I try to post at least once a day, but sometimes that's not doable. That's totally okay. Just get back on it the next day. Double down, post a bunch of stuff. What I like about also posting a ton and doing it for 2 years is you're just going to get better, right? You're practicing. You don't realize that, you can't just know what you're doing. So the Reels thing, you're going to put out stuff. I still to this day put out stuff that underperforms. And, I just try something different. What did I do wrong that time? Okay. I didn't have something catchy at the beginning.
Yep.
And that's part of the game. I know people sometimes don't like it when you have to put, here's a speakeasy, here's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
But then people don't see it, and people will love the content because they're getting a good recommendation. But you got to learn the game. That's what social media is nowadays. So the first 3 seconds are very important, right?
Yeah, I've struggled with that because like part of me is like, I don't want to play the game, but you have to play the game if you're going to try to grow the brand and do it. So that's good advice even for me that I'm going to take home because, and then I always want to perfect everything I'm doing with the content, right? So it's like, balance. I need to let that pressure of perfecting it not weigh on me because I think consistency, like you're saying, is probably key. I don't know if the algorithm rewards consistency. I'm sure it does.
I have a theory that they do like the people that post more often.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed, like they haven't said that, but I do believe that, if you post once a week, they're probably not going to help pump that out. Yeah. But the CEO of Instagram did come out and say, if you had a recent post that blew up, that you should follow that up soon with something good.
Yeah.
Because it is going to help that next post.
Yeah.
Because you're now getting all those people that just saw that recent post, they're more than likely going to see that next one you did.
Yeah.
And if it's a good one again, they might not have followed you on the first one, but they'll follow you on that second one. Or they now recognize your face because they saw you twice.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Another question, this is kind of going back to like almost the root of all this, where, you said from day one that you kind of knew you wanted to do something else that wasn't the 9 to 5. You wanted to be your own boss. I'm curious, where did that mindset come from? Is that something maybe you saw in a mentor or somebody growing up, like where you're like, oh, man, that person owns their own business. That looks really cool. I want to do that. Or like, where did that kind of desire, do you think, came from for you?
So I was always into living a life that was like special. I think, when I was young, I was really into sports. So it was always, I think like I wanted to be an NBA player when I was in high school.
Same.
Which as a 5'10" person, it's not the best career goal.
Yes.
But that was like my fun fact is I was actually a varsity basketball player, my 10th, 11th, 12th grade.
Cool.
And I'm always prideful in that because once again, I felt like an underdog. I was a 5'10", not super fast.
Yeah.
But I grinded and I just was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this happen, which I still carry to this day. So now that I'm full-time, I do that with social media.
Yeah.
But it was always like chasing dreams, and, following inspirational things on YouTube. I would watch videos like that all the time. And it's like, you have one life.
Yeah.
Do what you love. You're going to die one day. You're going to be old one day. We're young. We have an opportunity. Make the most of it. Yeah. So that's where my mindset is like, cool. And the guy that takes the 9 to 5 and takes care of his family, you got to respect that person. They're doing it. You're still, there's something to respect there.
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
But to me, deep down, I just see that, I don't want to look back and say, I just was lazy. I want to look back and just say, wow, I'm really proud. I gave it my all.
Yeah.
And it was to do this for everybody out there, like put in the work because I have such a fulfillment already. And I always joke about this is like kind of dark. I don't want to be morbid, but I always say, if I actually die tomorrow, I'm satisfied because I couldn't have done more than I've just done.
Yeah.
So that's the life I want to live. And I think that's where that came from is like, okay, this is cool. I have a paycheck, but there's more for me and I'm leaving that untapped. You got to go chase it.
Yeah. It sounds like you definitely have that competitor drive that kind of sports definitely drills in you at an early age.
Sports, yeah.
Leave it all on the field, right?
Yeah.
No regrets. I love that mentality. Very cool, man. Well, look, that's all I really got for you, man. This has been so cool to hear your story. I think it's a great just inspiration for people who are are looking at content creators and trying to figure out, like, could I do that? And I think a lot of people fantasize and think about it all the time, but never really pull the trigger and never really dip their toes into it. And I think kind of your lessons of just like consistency, and then like giving it some room to breathe and not expecting it to be more than it is, and have it be a hobby and passion and let that grow from there, I think is such a great reminder for people. So, and
you can do it. I'm not one of those, I'm an abundance person. Yeah. I literally, every person I meet, if you see me out there, I will give you tips. I want everybody to succeed, because I think that comes around in the world. And I do meet a lot of creators that are like all for themselves, because they think there's not enough pie for everybody.
Yeah.
But there's enough out there, and you can do it. So if you're thinking about doing something, just have fun and try it.
100%. Can you give me more tips at Kelly's Irish Bar another day?
Yeah, 100%. I love Kelly's Irish Bar.
I've only been there twice, and I want to go there every weekend.
It's the best.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Anthony. It's been great, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap on this edition of ATX Dream Jobs. Huge thanks to Anthony for sharing his story and for giving us all an excuse to explore more of Austin's best bars. If you're not already following at ATX Drinker, go fix that. Your next go-to spot is probably on his page. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who loves a good drink. And if you see Anthony out in the wild, buy him around. Odds are he'll have a great recommendation for you in return. Until next time, cheers.